Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag. This is the kind of spin-off show, if you will, of AMC Movie Talk, where we take mailbag questions every day. But since we get hundreds of questions from you and we only have time for like 2 or 3 mailbag questions on AMC Movie Talk, we decided to start this new show called AMC Mailbag, where all we do is sit back, relax, and talk movies based on your mailbag questions only. So we get through a lot more of them in this show. Today, I am joined by a couple of really enduring, nice, patient people who are joining me early on a Sunday morning. First of all is the associate editor over at AMC Movie News, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, good morning.
Good morning. What up, what up?
How are you doing today?
Doing just fine, thanks. How about yourself?
Very good. And also joining us, he is the director of the upcoming documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, Mr. John Schnepp. John?
What's up, everybody? It's really early this morning. It's like 6:30 in the morning, right? No, it's not that early.
Haven't been on with you forever, Schnapp. Miss you, buddy.
I know. What's up, Amy Rose?
What's up?
All right.
Sunday morning.
Let's get started with question number 1. And question number 1 today comes to us from Ed S. And Ed writes, "Hey guys, love the show. I've read that Joss Whedon won't come back to do Avengers 2 unless Robert Downey Jr. is signed on for Avengers 2 and 3. So, my question is, what are your thoughts on this news? Is it good? Is it bad?" Thanks a lot for the question, Ed. And I got to tell you, this is one of those things that frustrates the hell out of me. Because this is another one of those situations where a celebrity says something and then a whole ton of movie news sites twist what they said and run these sensationalized headlines. Whedon refuses to do Avengers 2 if Robert Downey Jr. No, he didn't. No, he didn't at all. Let's take a look here for a second. Here's exactly what Joss Whedon said, okay? Joss Whedon was being interviewed, and they were talking to him about the whole situation, and he said this. And yes, that just happens to be a picture of me with Joss Whedon. He said this. He goes, talking about Robert Downey Jr., Joss Whedon said, and this is where all the hubbub is coming from, he is Iron Man. He is Iron Man in the same way that Sean Connery was James Bond. I have no intention of making Avengers 2 without him, nor do I think I'll be called upon to do that. I don't think it's in my interest, Marvel's interest, or his interest. And I think everything will be fine. But I know that this is Hollywood and you roll with things, Whedon continued. You have to be ready for the unexpected. So let's start with this first thing he says, and then I want to get Amy Rose's and Schnepp's input on this. He did not say, I refuse to do this movie without Robert Downey Jr., all right? It kind of reminded me of this thing, look, I have no intention of making this movie without him. All that tells me is he's saying, look, I'm not planning on making Avengers 2 without Robert Downey Jr. The same way a coach of one of my favorite hockey teams, when talking about one of my favorite hockey players, once said, no, we have no intention of going into next season without him under contract. Well, guess what? The next season, that guy was on another team. Now, basically what Whedon here is saying is that, no, we have no intentions. We're not planning on doing Avengers 2 without Robert Downey Jr. That's not the plan. But he's not saying he's going to refuse to do it. Like, first of all, get things straight here. Joss Whedon has no say in the matter. Joss Whedon is under contract for 4.5 more years. If Marvel told him, hey, we're doing Avengers 2 without Robert Downey Jr., Joss Whedon's doing Avengers 2 without Robert Downey Jr. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And I think they want to do it with him. But Whedon then followed up everything he said, just to clarify, he says, look, but I know that this is Hollywood. You just got to roll with things. You got to be ready for the unexpected. Joss Whedon did not say he's going to not do Avengers 2 if Robert Downey Jr. doesn't do it. I hate it when movie news sites sensationalize things and twist things that get said in order to draw traffic. It's really frustrating to me. Anyway, Amy Rose, what about you? You read these comments, you hear about this kind of stuff. What's the first thing that enters your head?
Well, I have no intention on selling my next script below $1 billion. But sometimes you just have to adapt. and evolve. Obviously, Joss Whedon wants to work with Robert Downey Jr. again. I interviewed him on the red carpet of Iron Man 3, and he was just talking about how it's always so wonderful working with him. He really brings this life and this passion to set, and he's really excited to continue that, and that's all true. Joss is a good man. He calls it like it is, but unfortunately, sometimes things happen, and like Joss said, you have to expect the unexpected in this industry and evolve with it. If Robert Downey Jr. doesn't sign on, you really think that Joss is not going to do Avengers 2 and 3? I don't think so. The rest of the cast, for the most part, is ready to go, and I've said this numerous times on the show, we all have, how much we love Robert Downey Jr. as this character. He's the man. He was born to play this role. But if for some reason, and I do think we'll get him for Avengers 2, he's just playing hard to get, and he can because he's Iron Man, yo. But I do think that Joss, he's going to helmet no matter what. He's proven that he's amazing at this universe. He's just so good at, sharing screen time between these huge, amazing superstars and superheroes. And yeah, I think the dream is to get the crew back together again. But things happen, and if we don't, that's not going to delay Avengers 2.
Okay, Schnepp, what about you? How do you see all this?
Well, I think Whedon said it in that he said, we all look at James Bond as Sean Connery. So he's sort of saying, James Bond is a character that has been played by many different actors, though many people say that Sean Connery was the best James Bond. I think he's saying basically Robert Downey Jr. is the best Iron Man. We all think about Iron Man as Robert Downey Jr., but ultimately down the road, someone else is going to be playing Iron Man, and we're just all going to have to accept it. Whether that happens with Avengers 2 or not, he obviously would like to continue working with Robert Downey Jr. That's all that statement was saying, unless he wants Sean Connery to play Iron Man. But I don't know if that's
Yeah,
possible.
I really did think it was interesting, the analogy he used when he said, hey, look, he is Iron Man the way that Sean Connery is James Bond. That's interesting because guess what? A few years later, Sean Connery wasn't James Bond anymore.
Right.
But like I said, this just kind of highlights for me this whole notion of people taking something a celebrity says, twisting it out of context, and making these sensationalized headlines out of it. And it's unfortunate they do that. But let me just voice one bit of frustration here. I think I might have said this on the show before. I'll say it again. We've all talked about many times on this show and on AMC Movie Talk about how much of a fan that we all are, including myself, of Robert Downey Jr., how great he is at Iron Man, how all things being equal, we all definitely want to see him come back, and I do think he will be back for Avengers 2. That being said, as a fan of Robert Downey Jr., I'm really frustrated with him right now. I'm really frustrated that he is an actor first of all, in Avengers, he got paid more money. I think only 3 other actors in history got more money for being in a particular movie than Robert Downey Jr. got for being in the Avengers. And now he wants more. Now he wants a raise. He wants to get north of $70 million for being in a movie. That kind of makes me sick to my stomach, especially when I consider that Robert Downey Jr., the only reason anybody pays any attention to you anymore is because Marvel decided to roll the dice on you and give you a chance to be in this movie because nobody would touch you. When the first Iron Man came around, nobody would touch you with a leading role, and they decided to take a chance on you, and now you're holding fans hostage. That's essentially what he's doing. Robert Downey Jr. is holding the fans hostage. He's using us as hostages in his negotiations with Marvel, saying, give me more, give me more, give me more, because the fans like me, so you're screwed. And basically he's using us as hostages. And I hate saying that about actors that I really, really like, and I understand it's a business. You go for as much as you can get. I don't fault normally people like that, but dude, show a little bit of loyalty. Marvel
Honestly,
saved your career. What do you think, Schnepp?
You saying that actually made me think about, like, look, we've had Eric Bana, and then we had Edward Norton, and then we got Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, and it's all happened organically, and even while everything was getting made to bring the Avengers together, that was when Ed Norton originally was supposed to be in the Avengers. This can easily happen. Robert Downey Jr. could be replaced, and in Avengers 2, it could just be War Machine, and Iron Man is he's off site. He's like, hey, he's an ancillary role. Maybe some other character who replaces Tony Stark is only in it very superfluously. It can happen, and it's not going to make Avengers 2 suck.
Yeah,
So,
we can never imagine it happening until it happens. And then
That's an excellent way to put it.
yeah, and it's going to happen, whether it happens in Avengers 2 or 3. I mean, I love Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, but, honestly, he's done 3 movies as Iron Man. I'm totally cool with a brand new actor replacing him in the same continuity. It really doesn't affect me that much, to be honest.
The character is bigger than Robert Downey Jr.
I agree,
Yeah.
so...
All right, well, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Miguel Batacan, who writes, I am excited to the point of stupidity about the next Star Wars film. I am also happy that Abrams is directing. I have one concern. After seeing the new Star Trek film, I am worried that the marketing department for Episode 7 will do something similar by playing their cards really close to the chest. I think this move would be a big mistake. I mean, can you think of a bigger mistake than hiding the fact that Admiral Thrawn is in the next Star Wars film, for example? It's a really good point that you bring up. Schnepp, what do you think? Do you think that there's a possibility that Star Wars, the next Star Wars Episode 7, could play their marketing really close to vest like Star Trek did in hiding the fact that Khan was the villain?
No, I don't think so. I mean, JJ got hired because he's a really talented director, and he's got a great vision that he can bring Star Wars to the next level, but I think Kathleen Kennedy is in charge of Star Wars, and she's going to follow suit with all the rest of the hits that she's done over the last 30 years. So, and that's all the way Star Wars was marketed, just the way the Clone Wars and Phantom Menace and all the other films were marketed. They have trailers, they release stills, they release tidbits. I mean, if you remember back, I think Return of the Jedi was filmed under Blue Harvest. They always have trick names for when they're shooting stuff. They've kept everything really tight, close to the chest. You didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke's dad until the movie came out. So Star Wars has always been veiled in secrecy, and J.J. Abrams is not anyone new to that. So I don't know, Admiral Thrawn, I know that he's like some blue guy from the expanded universe. I mean, whether or not that's a big shocking thing, like, oh my God, Admiral Thrawn is in it, whether that's going to blow people's minds, to me, I don't care. I just want the movie to be great, awesome, and just like the original 3 Star Wars movies, I want it to be amazing. So that's what I care about. Secrecy, I can wait 3 years. What is it, 2015? I'll just watch it when it comes out,
Amy Rose, what about you?
I think that other than John Carter, which was marketed terribly, I think Disney's generally pretty good at marketing their superhero, epic, larger-than-life films. I mean, I've loved everything they've done with their Marvel properties, and I think that they're going to do a really good job with Star Wars as well. And there's a difference. I mean, look at Iron Man 3, for example, the Mandarin. They totally made it clear that the Mandarin was the villain in the film, but they didn't reveal the spoiler. That, to me, is good. Now, with Star Trek and Khan, I completely agree with you there. They should have really made that known, because by the time we saw the film, we're like, it's Khan, we already knew. The momentum was gone for us. In the beginning, when, John and I talk about this a lot on the show, we're like, it's Khan, and we saw that whole EW magazine, and then it was taken away, and they were just building excitement and momentum, and I thought that was brilliant, but then they didn't strike while the iron was hot. They let it fizzle out, so then by the time the big reveal happened, it's like, yeah, been there, done that. It was still great. I love Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan, but you know what I mean? They didn't really capitalize on that. So I don't think that Disney's going to make the same mistake here. Perhaps it's the optimist and diehard Star Wars fan in me that just thinks they're going to do it right. But I was actually I had the opportunity to see J.J. Abrams speak yesterday at the Produced By conference, and obviously all us audience members kept trying to get some Star Wars questions in, and he kept smiling and like, no comment, not happening. But number one, he's a diehard fan, and the way this is just being crafted, I don't think they're going to make what you call mistakes. I don't think they made mistakes with Star Trek, but they could have played it smarter. But I have a lot of faith in this property, and this is Disney's baby. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than this, so I think that they're going to take all the right precautions.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing, it is important to remember that J.J. Abrams isn't going to, like Schnepp was kind of pointing out, J.J. Abrams won't have power over the marketing campaign.
Yeah.
This is Lucasfilm. This is Disney. They're going to wield the power there. So it's not going to be the same team behind the marketing. Plus, it's two different situations. Remember, I've always said, like, with Star Trek, if you're going to make Thrawn the villain, Sorry, not Thrawn. If you're going to make Khan, I should say, the villain, if you're going to use Khan, well, why are you using Khan as a villain? You're using him because he is a hugely popular Star Trek villain that everybody loves, that he would be great for bringing people in. Everybody would be excited because it's Khan. That's why you use Khan. Then why do you then shoot yourself in the foot by then completely hiding the fact that it's Khan? What was the point? Like, I will never understand their marketing quote-unquote strategy behind that. I think they dropped the ball insanely. I think they would have made 5 to 10% more at the box office had they built up and celebrated Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan. If you had done that, it would have been insane because it wasn't a big reveal in the movie. It's not like it was some big thing that they popped on us at the very end. Oh my gosh, it was Khan. No, it was part of the movie. And they should have done that. Now with Thrawn, though, it's different. Nobody knows who Thrawn is. The only people who know who Thrawn is are people with absolutely no lives like me who've read the whole Heir to the Empire series and played some of the games. And we are very, very few of us.
He's blue, though, right?
He is blue.
I knew that. All right.
Woo!
That's all I know.
I mean, the fact that a guy like John Schnepp just knows him as a guy that's blue, that should tell us something. So that is something that if they didn't reveal that in the trailers for like a Star Wars Episode 7, not that Thrawn is in Star Wars Episode 7, but if he was and they didn't use him in the trailers, well, that doesn't really mean anything. It's just nobody knows who Thrawn is anyway. So,
hey, guys,
I think Disney.
I heard a special secret spoiler. Sean Connery is playing Admiral Thrawn.
Oh, yes. Oddly enough, I think he'd be a great Thrawn. All right. Let's move on to the next question. The next question comes to us from Noel C., who writes, I love the show. You are always very informative. My question is, with the new Fantastic Four reboot, it's probably safe to assume that Doctor Doom will be the main villain. As a huge Doctor Doom fan, I'm very curious how they will pull this character off. The first adaptation of him was atrocious, although I understand Doom is a very difficult character to bring to the big screen. How do you guys think they will handle it? Well, oddly enough, I don't think Doctor Doom will be... Now, Schnepp and Amy Rose, I want to hear your opinion on this. I actually don't think they'll have Doctor Doom as the villain in the Fantastic... At least in the first Fantastic Four reboot. I think they might go the route of Batman Begins and Dark Knight, where they save the Joker for the second film. I think in this iteration, I think they'll probably use somebody like, I don't know, Diablo or Mole Man or some version of Super Skrull, or they might use somebody else who's a relatively close to A-list villain for Fantastic Four, and then build up and have Doctor Doom in the second one. That's the way I see it. Schnepp, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this character, Doctor Doom, Doctor Doom Minton Box. He's not. I don't think he's going to be the villain. I think they're going to redo the origin and have him part of the origin. But I think he's a perfect character, just like Lex Luthor, to build up in this new interpretation of Fantastic Four. Don't give Doctor Doom electrical powers. Don't mess it up. That's
Amy
all I can
Rose?
say.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to bring out all their party tricks right away. And, I mean, everything about those Fantastic Four films were not done right, so of course they're not going to do an awesome character like Doctor Doom. Super Skrull would be fantastic. I love playing him in Marvel vs. Capcom. He always wins. Well, at least when I play him, what's up? But, yeah, I definitely think they're going to not play it safe, but they want to, again, get people excited about this. I think Josh Trank's going to do a really good job. And then, be like, okay, now that you're back in and we've proven that we can do this property justice, we're going to give you all Doctor Who again. So,
Doctor Who?
Doom, excuse me. Doctor Doom.
Benedict Cumberbatch enters Fantastic Four as Doctor Who.
Oh,
all right.
It's early.
Let's move on to the next question. I actually love this question. It has to do with a very dear topic to me, Man of Steel. And the question is, Abanob writes, I love that name. Hey guys, awesome show. My question is about Superman and an after credits scene. We all know Marvel does it for all of their Avengers, but DC never shows anything, except if you count Green Lantern. Well, you got to count Green Lantern. It was okay. It was way too obvious and a waste of time, if you ask me. So, will there be a clip after the credits? I hope so. Amy Rose, What do you think? Are we going to see? Do you think we'll see any kind of an after credit scene in Man of Steel?
I've actually heard that we don't. I've heard that we don't. I wish we would, because I really do love the little teasers that Marvel does. Even the last one that wasn't necessarily a teaser, and if you haven't seen Iron Man 3 by now, whatever. All spoilers are fair game. But when he's on the couch with Mark Ruffalo, and it's cute. Even though it didn't really tease anything to come, I still really enjoyed that. And, the end of Avengers, like all of them, they're so great. I mean, that's really become an event in itself, staying after the credits, being so excited for, what they're going to reveal. But I have heard that they're not going to. Perhaps someone informed me incorrectly from the Warner Brothers side. I would have loved a teaser as well, just to know where the story's going from there. But I couldn't be more excited for it with or without the teaser.
Schnepp, what about you?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy did not have after credits little sequences, and since this is a Nolan-produced film, I think you're right. There's not going to be an after credit sequence. This question made me go online and be like, what was the first after credit sequence? I think it was The Muppets, where Animal was like, "Why are you still here? Go home!" The Muppet movie. I think that was the last.
1979, the Muppet movie. Yep.
Yeah, like the first, after credit.
That's
I mean, they did it with James Bond, where they were like, James Bond will return in Russia from Love, but. These after credits things for Marvel, the Marvel movies, I always look forward to them. I don't stay to see credits. I mean, because credits nowadays for a special effects movie are 10 minutes. There's like 5,000 people from India, just going for you hear 3 different scores through the whole credit sequence. So, I mean, if you're staying through the credits, I'm usually looking for weird people's names, like, look, Banjangi Fam Fam Fam, or something like that. Just keep my interest going. And hoping that the after credit sequence is fun and exciting. And for Iron Man 3, it was just hilarious. It was just a comedy bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I look forward to the ones with Marvel, but nowadays as everyone's like, oh, should we stick around? Is there an after credit something for every movie? I'm like, come on, I'm cool without having after credit stuff. It'd be great if they did it with Man of Steel. I want to know, though. I don't want to sit through 10 minutes of credits. So.
And find out that
hopefully someone tells me.
I don't think you have to wait.
One of the things, though, keep in mind, too, though, is that during the press screenings, if I remember correctly, during the press screenings for a lot of the Avengers movies, they never showed the after-credit scene. I remember
there was one for Iron Man.
I was at the press screening, the first press screening for Iron Man 1, and that last scene with Nick Fury wasn't in it. They didn't have that in it. So, I mean, it's possible that they do have an end credit scene and they're keeping that under wraps. It's possible. You bring up the Muppet movie in 1979. There was also one of the more famous ones in that era was, of course, the after credit scene for Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, yeah.
When he comes back and goes, and they break the fourth wall. It's like, why are you still here? Why are you still here? And the first one that I remember, and you correct me if there was one before this, but the first after credits something that happened in a movie that actually was supposed to be a tease or something to anticipate a forthcoming movie, not just a little comedy bit, but something to actually tease something coming up, was 1999, The Phantom Menace. Because if you stayed, if you stayed all the way through the credits, once the screen goes black, if you were still in the theater, after about a second of the screen being black, you just heard the Vader breathing. And that's the first time I can remember an after credits thing, alluding to something. I don't think, for the reasons that Amy Rose stated and for others, I don't think there will be an after credit scene for Man of Steel because I don't think they know what they're doing next. I think by the time they shot everything, I don't think they really knew what they were doing next. So I don't think so. No, we're not going to see Batman. I can tell you right now, we're not going to see Batman in the after credit scene of Man of Steel. Maybe
Justice
something.
League teaser.
Whoa, I mean, hey. There might be a comedy bit. There might be just something a little thing like the end of Iron Man 3, but I don't think we're going to see anything that actually leads us into the next DC movie, because I don't even think they know what the next DC movie is going to be at this point.
General Zod shaving with his new Norelco Gillette shaver.
All right, next question. Next one comes to us from Michael Magia, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. So my question of the day is, regarding the film Oldboy, I have heard that Spike Lee will be directing and will have Josh Brolin, Elizabeth Olsen, and Charlton Copley starring in the American remake. Do you think this remake will be as successful as the original film, or will it be destined to flop? Schnepp, what do you think about the remake of Oldboy?
Oh boy, that's a tough question because I loved the original Oldboy.
Yeah.
I think the combination of Josh Brolin and Spike Lee is sounds interesting to me. Not interesting enough to beat the original Oldboy for me. So I'm going to actually wait until it comes out and listen to other critics and see what they have to say. It's not something I'm going to be seeing opening night. I'm really not that interested in this remake because I thought the original was perfect. So certain films that get remade for the American audiences, if I've seen the foreign movie, and like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I finally saw the David Fincher movie. I love David Fincher as a director. I still think the original's better. Sorry. I mean, it's where it's at. The same thing with Let the Right One In. They did an American remake called Let Me In. It was not as good. It didn't make it. So
Amy Rose,
I have a big things with Oldboy. So
Amy Rose, what do you think?
Yeah, Schnapp, apparently the Swedes know what they're doing because both of those were so much better. The Swedish version of Let the Right One In is, to date, one of the best vampire films out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Oldboy, I mean, I've been very vocal about this on our AMC Movie Talk show. Park Chan-wook is one of the most visionary, incredible, underrated directors. And I say underrated because he's a cult classic. He's not a widely known classic. He just released his first English-speaking film with Stoker. And it was my favorite film of the year so far, and just so artistically shot and beautiful. And I don't think that it didn't really make much of a hit at the box office. And you say Oldboy was a success, but I believe it only made about 15 million at the box office. So again, it was a success by standards of cult classics and filmmakers and people that really appreciate his art, like Schnepp and I have just vocalized. But in terms of being a wide success, it really wasn't. And Spike Lee, I mean, they're also remaking Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, the whole Vengeance series basically. Wow. And I'm not happy about that because Park Chan-wook's style and storytelling is so sensational. So, will I see it? Probably, but I'm going to have my arms crossed and I'm not going to be too pleased about it because sometimes it's just too soon. His films are so incredible on their own, and I wish more people would see the originals than having to remake them.
But they're not seeing them, and I think that's the point that I think a lot of people that I debate on this issue always fail to grasp. They're not seeing them. I'm so glad Schnepp brought up the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Let the Right One In. I actually did, shockingly enough, preferred Fincher's version, but not by much, just barely. I thought it was actually a better film than the other one. I know I'm in the minority about, but I thought just barely. I thought it was better. I do think the original Let the Right One In was the better film. But, I go back to other things like this. My all-time favorite cop movie is Infernal Affairs. All-time favorite cop movie. Now, The Departed comes out, wins Martin Scorsese his first directing Academy Award, wins Best Picture of the Year, all that kind of stuff. And I still think Infernal Affairs is the slightly better film. But The Departed was awesome. But here's the big thing, whether you're talking about The Ring, or whether you're talking about Let the Right One In, or whether you're talking about Infernal Affairs, nobody has seen those originals. But I know so many people after watching the North American remake of The Ring was like, wow, this was awesome. What, there's an original? And actually then went and watched the original. I know so many people who had never seen the original Let the Right One In, but after seeing the North American version, went and found a new appreciation for the original. And I think there are going to be more people now who see the original Park Oldboy that never would have seen it before because Spike Lee is doing a remake. And, and my whole argument about remakes is always the same. Doesn't matter. If Spike Lee and Josh Brolin make a horrible Oldboy movie and it sucks, well, then, the three of us, we still have the original to love and appreciate and enjoy. And if they make a good one and get people talking about it, then just more people will actually finally go and check out the original masterpiece. So to me,
the superior one.
Well, I mean, we'll see.
Right.
But to me, it's kind of like it's a no-lose situation. Like there is no scenario here that will make us lose because it's not like Spike Lee's going to make a horrible Oldboy movie, and therefore somebody's going to go, well, then I'm never going to watch the original. Well, guess what? They were never going to watch the original anyway if they haven't watched it already. So that's just.
I'm sorry, Spike. You're no Park, but we'll see what you got.
And oddly enough, I actually really like Spike Lee as a filmmaker.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's done some stuff, like he's a little hit and miss, but he's done some stuff that just makes me go, wow, this is deep and insightful and is provocative, and sometimes it's just a mess. But I think there's potential to be good. No. Will it be as good as the original Oldboy? Come on.
No.
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. But that doesn't necessarily mean
it won't be good.
Yeah, doesn't necessarily mean it won't be good. So
right.
We'll see
Every
where
time
we
we talk about Scorsese, it just baffles me that he didn't win anything for Goodfellas. That his first Director Academy Award was for The Departed, which was a good film, but it just baffles me that was the first time he received.
Yeah, but you have to look at it like that's a gimme. Like the Academy was like, look, we screwed up. He has to. We just give it to him now. We don't know what's coming in the future.
See, and I completely disagree. I thought The Departed was the best film that year, and I thought he deserved the Oscar that year.
Oh, he did.
And it just kind of highlights Scorsese is the poster child for me about that. Highlights winning an Academy Award is a tough thing. Yeah. It's tough because you can be the best all-time director, right? You'll like this one, Amy Rose. Let me do a sports analogy here. Kobe Bryant, who everybody knows I hate. I hate Kobe Bryant. But is he in the top 15 greatest players of all time?
No
Even
question.
somebody like me has to say, of course he is. Of course he's in the top 15. A lot of people argue top 10. Some people argue top 5. But
top 5.
Obviously he's in the top 15. No question about it. Okay, but that dude's only won one MVP award. One. Despite how great his overall career has been, there was only 1 year where the whole association said, you were the best individual player this year. Over the span of 15 years, you're the top 1 or 2. But there was only 1 year where you were clearly above everybody else. And that's kind of like the same with the Oscars. It's like you can have a guy like Scorsese who, damn, you sit back and look at his work. Clearly, he's one of the 3 best directors, maybe in history. But there was only 1 year that they could definitively say, this was the year that your directorial effort was the absolute best that year. It's tough. It's really, really hard.
You just compared Bryant to Scorsese. I think you like him secretly.
Oh, you were wrong. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the next question. The next question comes to us from Adam Aranda. Adam Aranda writes, this is an interesting question, actually. How much money does Man of Steel have to make in order to be, quote unquote, successful enough to launch a Justice League movie? I love this question because I like the way you phrased it, Adam, because you're not asking, hey, how much does it have to make to be successful? Well, make $10 over everything they needed to spend to make the movie, and you are successful. Yeah. But how much you have to be successful enough to make Warner Brothers finally get over their apprehension and get over their self-doubt and get over their fragile egos and go ahead and start like the next round of a DC universe? I'm going to say this. I think it's being reported that Man of Steel was somewhere around the $200 million mark. Am I hearing that right? All right. So you figure $200 million there for production. You figure another $75 million, maybe $50 million. Another $50 million for payouts that will go for percentages towards actors and directors because they'll all get a percentage of whatever the movie makes. So you got to tack that onto the expense. Probably add another $40 million for the marketing they've done, because they've done a lot of marketing for this.
I would say $100 million for marketing.
Yeah.
You're probably right. You're probably closer to that than I am. So let's for argument's sake, let's say 70. So 70 million. Now you're about the 320, around the 320 million mark. Now you got to figure about a certain percentage of everything the movie makes doesn't actually go back to the studio, but actually goes to the movie theaters. So you're talking maybe about 30, 35% off the top. So let's say this. I'm going to throw out a number. Tell me what you guys think. To be successful and successful enough to make DC get over their apprehension, I'm going to say worldwide, $650 million. I say if Man of Steel makes $650 million worldwide, which is less than the Spider-Man reboot, that's about $100 million less than the most recent Spider-Man movie. I think if they can make $650 to $700 million range, I think they're in pretty safe territory that they'll start moving forward with either the Man of Steel sequel, getting the next Batman going, or finally getting things going at Justice League. Amy Rose, what do you think that number is going to have to be?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad guess at all. I do think marketing was at least 100 million. I mean, we have talked about how great their promotional efforts have been.
Yeah.
They have been all over the place, and they haven't just done posters and new trailers, but they did that promotional video with Zod, with no branding, and like all this stuff, and all the quality has been so tip top, like high caliber. So I definitely think it's been a very expensive but a very successful campaign. And the buzz around this film could not be greater. I mean, it's one of our the most anticipated film of the year. And I think everyone who's seen it, and now it's not just Warner Brothers people, so now we can actually maybe start paying a little more attention because they're not as biased, have just loved it. This has just been exceeding all expectations. So I think hitting that 650, 700 number that you just kind of predicted is not going to be tough. And come on, WB, grow some cojones. Let's see that Justice League movie. I really want to see it.
Schnepp, what do you think?
$1 billion. It's got to do $1 billion. I think, like I was saying, 150 opening weekend, another 50 trickling in over the week, another 100 million. I think it's going to make 300, over almost 350 in the first 2 weeks of it being open, just in the U.S.
Wow!
And then the other part of the world, everyone else, another 400 million. So in the first 2 weeks, 750 million in the first 2 weeks. So I think it'll clear $1 billion in 1 month, and that's going to be like, okay, once they hit the $1 billion mark, Justice League, or at least Man of Steel 2, and then Justice League, something like that.
Or the world's finest.
Yeah, World's Finest would be great.
Yeah, amazing.
I still think they'll reboot Batman. You know what? No, screw that idea. Reboot Batman with the world's finest. That's where you reboot him. I'm down for that. All right, last question of the day here, and it's about Johnny Depp. It comes from us from Jose Wilson, who writes, I have a question about Johnny Depp. Is he ever going to work on a serious film again? We all know that he's going to make loads of money for all of these characters he's playing, Jack Sparrow, Tonto, the horrible Dark Shadows, and Willy Wonka characters. I personally miss the days where he played serious roles. Donnie Brasco, anyone? He really could have been better than the great Al Pacino. Well, Jose, good question, but let's be honest. On his best day, Johnny Depp was never as good as Al Pacino on his 10th best day.
Oh, I disagree.
And that is not a knock, because Al Pacino is the gold standard. So it's kind of unfair to compare a Johnny Depp to an Al Pacino. That's not fair, because you can't win that. Johnny Depp was a great actor. He is a great actor. He's a really, really good actor. And let's not forget, it's not like he hasn't done any serious films lately. He had, that quasi-serious film, The Rum Diaries, that really failed badly. He had that, what was that gangster movie he just did where he played the 30s and 40s gangster? I can't remember the name of it now, but it's eluding me. He does have another drama coming out called Transcendence,
right?
About AI and stuff like that. That looks quite interesting. But yeah, it does feel like in the last 10 years he's just made his bread and butter off these more clownish characters. And I don't know. I mean, then he did that movie with Angelina Jolie, The Tourist, which was just,
and that Public Enemies was the one you were looking for.
Public Enemies. Thank you very much. And I thought, even though I didn't think that movie was all that great, I thought Depp was quite solid in it. I thought it was pretty damn good. Nothing, not Oscar worthy, but pretty damn good. But no, so we do have more dramas from him coming, but I don't think you can say the name Johnny Depp and the name Al Pacino in the same breath. I just don't think you can do it. Amy Rose, you seem to think differently.
I mean, you're not giving credit to his other incredible films either. Benny and June, Ed Wood, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I mean, this guy has done some incredible, incredible films. Donnie Brasco is one of my favorite of that genre, and the two of them were incredible together acting, and I absolutely loved it. And sure, he has pretty much been indulging in the more physical transformations than the ones we kind of just mentioned, but I do think that his talent is unquestionable. He is so incredible. And, I agree. I haven't really liked the choices he's made with his career as much. Sure, I liked Pirates 1. That's where it really ends. And, The Lone Ranger looks like it could be fun. But, Charlie the Chocolate Factory, Alice in Wonderland, everything, he's just been this quirky, over-the-top character. He's still great at that. But I do like to see him go back to his dramatic chops. And Transcendence, I mean, I think that's going to be great. Wally Pfister's directorial debut, of course, he's Christopher Nolan's praised cinematographer. So everything I've heard about that sounds like it's going to be a really great film with heart, little sci-fi edge to it. It sounds really great. And I would have really liked to see him play another gangster in Black Mass, but of course, they had budget disputes. Yeah. So I do think the talent is still very much intact, and I hope that maybe since he's had so many of these character-driven films, kooky character-driven films, that he will go back to the more dramatic role, because I do think he's one of the best actors out there. And I can admit that I haven't liked the steps his career has taken, but the talent is not gone, and I hope he gets back to that dramatic chops. And I would argue that he's definitely one of the best actors out there.
Schnepp, how do you see this?
I think he's got a great career, a great past and a great future. So I think the last 10, 15 years, he's just been experimenting and having a lot of fun playing cartoon characters, Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, I think it started with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when he started playing these out there gonzo characters, literally. That he was like, wow, I can have a lot of fun and still be an actor. And then he did Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and he started having these big, at that point in time, he was taken very seriously. Even though he did character roles like Edward Scissorhands and Ed Wood, he was still a very serious actor. And then once he started having more fun playing bigger and bigger, cartoonier characters, when he hit Pirates, then he was bam. I'm Willy Wonka. Now I'm doing Sweeney Todd. He's like in every Tim Burton movie. And I tried watching Dark Shadows yesterday, and I just couldn't get in. I turned it off after an hour. I was like,
I tried watching Dark Shadows yesterday, and I turned it off.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is horrible.
It was so
anyway.
bad.
I mean, hey, look, an interesting experiment gone wrong. A lot of films have that problem, and that's one of them. So, look, I mean, he could play a clown for the next 3 years, and then by the time he's 60, he's going to hit that Al Pacino, whoa, he's amazing. But, yeah, you're right. He's not Al Pacino. He's a different actor. He's a good actor, so...
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's just a good actor. I think he's an extremely good actor.
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. I think he's top caliber. I'm not saying he's a good actor, he's okay. He's a great actor. So I think we're going to see great things from him for the future. And I say let him clown around,
Yeah, I just think when you're talking about a guy like Johnny Depp, I think when you're talking about guys who are really good actors, I just think you have to be careful. You mentioned some really solid performances that he's turned in. But I put Johnny Depp in the same category as say a George Clooney, a Brad Pitt. Well, George Clooney's an Academy Award winning actor.
He's amazing, and I love him.
Academy Award winning actor.
That Johnny Depp brings to his roles. George Clooney's really likable and he's really solid, but I don't think he's shown as much diversity and depth over the course of his career as Johnny Depp has.
I see. The thing is, I just don't. I've never seen a Johnny Depp performance that exceeds, say, his the Clooney's performance in The Descendants, for instance. I've never seen one solitary. Now you're talking the span of a career, but still, I put him in. I put Johnny Depp in the same category as a George Clooney, which is a great category to be in, as a Brad Pitt, which is a great category to be in. But I just can't put him in that Robert De Niro, that Al Pacino, the guy from There Will Be Blood. Why is his name eluding me? The shoe cobbler. The shoe cobbler. The Daniel Day-Lewis's. I certainly don't put him in the same level as Russell Crowe. I don't put him in the same level. But He's great. But he's great. He's absolutely great. It doesn't take anything away. I just don't know about the comparison to a Pacino, though. Certainly.
I don't know. He's more extreme acting, like Dead Man, Jim Jarmusch's Dead Man, or Blow. Those are films where he was actually dead serious and did a really great job as an actor.
Yeah, and I don't think he's done. I don't think Johnny Depp has a lot more films left in him than a Robert De Niro or an Al Pacino do. So let's talk about comparing the careers maybe in 12 more years, 15 more years, because Depp has already got a great resume, and he's got a lot more he can still add to it, and he's still going to do more drama. So don't you worry about that.
In 12 years, Crystal Skull says we shall get back together to discuss Johnny Depp's career.
Thank you, Crystal Skull. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, listen, that'll do it for us. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, Email us your questions for any topic or any question you would like us to address either on AMC Movie Talk or here on AMC Mailbag. You can email us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Send in your questions. We get hundreds every day, but we get through just as many as we can. Keep sending them in. We really appreciate it. And while I've got you here, listen, the way you can really show us your support is by clicking that thumbs up button on the video. And if you haven't done it already, click the subscribe button and become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news and, of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show and this, the AMC Mailbag show that we do a couple times every week. I want to thank my co-host today, first of all, the Associate Editor of AMC Movie News, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, thank you so much. I want to thank the director of the upcoming The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, Mr. John Schnepp.
Hey, awesome to hang out with you guys on a Sunday.
Great to see you, Schneppy. Missed you, buddy.
Thank you most of all to you guys. Listen, the most important part of the show is certainly not what we have to say. It's what you have to say. Make sure you jump on down to the comment section. Leave your thoughts on any or all of the questions that we addressed here today. Agree or disagree. Maybe so there's some stuff that we missed. Drop it into the comment section. That is just a way to make this a really good participatory event. So thanks a lot again for joining us. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News. And until next time, bye-bye.